And we do that because we want to get a much more precise sense of the distribution of risk along in a particular domain. And here we're just using the smart grid because it's very complicated and very pervasive and ubiquitous as an example. But the challenge then, the biggest domain, bigger challenge, are you going to stop me? Finish my sentence?
No. Finish your sentence.
The bigger challenge.
Me too.
Oh, wow. The biggest challenge is that we all talk about threats to critical infrastructures. And depending on your favorite critical infrastructure, we worry about that. But we've never really exploited the implication of the knowledge that is embedded in the guidelines provided to us for free by NIST. So we think of this as the beginning of a set of analytical tools that the global citizen might be persuaded to master. My last point is a show of hand, please. How many of you in your spare time really turn to the NIST documents and just read them and say, ah, that's very interesting? Please, show of hand, no one? One of the nation's major assets remains unequal. Thank you.
Juan, how would you like us to conduct this?
John is next, isn't it?
Derek.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
Different
why
set of
don't,
instructions.
why don't we just go forward with Derek Reveron is one of several speakers who will be joining us on video today. So if you would please go ahead.
I'm Professor Derek Reveron, and I'm grateful to the Boston Global Forum, Governor Dukakis, and Mr. Tuan for allowing me an opportunity to share my personal views. The discussions sound promising, and I would pose 3 questions to frame the discussion for cyber civil defense. First, what can individuals do to protect their identity, privacy, and their personal cyberspace? Second, what can consumers expect from the IT community? And finally, what can citizens expect from their governments? So-called cyber attacks violate state sovereignty, exploit IT vulnerabilities, and undermine individual security. Citizens, regardless of nationality, are exposed to the risks created by cyber insecurity. International cooperation through venues like this Boston Global Forum are essential to improving cybersecurity. The risks are all too familiar. Identity theft is common and harasses individuals' financial futures and denies them access to their own data. Intellectual property theft undermines corporations' innovations through the loss of trade secrets. Data corruption undermines corporate reputations, and unsecured networks become gateways for malicious activity and the means for ransomware. The same space that ignited commercial opportunities and shrank the size of the social world facilitates illegal activities. Cyber tools expand the range of actors in international security. Only governments can conduct missile strikes, but individuals and groups can conduct cyber strikes. Development costs are minuscule relative to conventional military power and has expanded the range of threats. Motivated by profits, organized crime expands reach beyond community and national boundaries. Cyber militias are used as proxies to conduct espionage, information operations, and cyber attacks. Dozens of countries are developing cyber commands and are learning how to integrate cyber operations into traditional military operations. With persistent vulnerabilities in the software used and the relative impunity with which states, groups, and individuals operate in cyberspace, we'll continue to experience data breaches leading to fraud, intellectual property theft, and eventual disruptions in our IT-reliant society. This undercuts the benefits that citizens derive from the technology we enjoy. Government wants to and needs to work with industry, but neither side has understood how cyber poses a different set of challenges for each. Government does not appreciate the business side of IT, and the IT industry doesn't appreciate the national security dimensions of their businesses. I wish you well in addressing these topics and learning more ways to strengthen cyber civil defense.
All right.
We're still trying to figure out what the schedule is. I'm going to flip it back to you.
All right, so I'm going to ask Ron Lee to join us now. Ron, if you would introduce yourself, and bring up your slides. So good afternoon. I'm Rod Reef, and I run my own consulting firm in the payment space. I do consulting in both the U.S. and around the world. And I spent 32 years with Citigroup prior to this, and in the last 20 I was chairman and CEO of a sub where we built a global payment business in the ATM, point of sale, money transfer kind of industry. At the moment I'm spending somewhere around 20 to 30% of my time working on 2 Federal Reserve task forces, one on faster payments and one on security of the payment space. So I'm going to talk just about 3 security incidents. Go to the next page. So I'm going to talk about what happened at SWIFT, what happened at a mental health clinic, and what happened at the New York State Psychiatric Institute. Next slide. Okay, so SWIFT, most of us, I imagine, have heard one time or another. It's about, I would guess, about 9 months, 6 to 9 months old. There was an $81 million was removed from Bangladesh's central bank's account at the New York Federal Reserve Bank. The likely causes, although we don't know definitely, leaving the door open where the SWIFT terminal was, access to passwords for the SWIFT devices, and old or weak security equipment that was used on that equipment in the Bangladesh bank, central bank. So SWIFT responded to this by asking its participants to install the latest version of security software, reasonable, adopt stronger processes for authenticating transactions. The word authenticating may mean to you some sort of high technology, but it isn't really. It's a process that simply says you look at a transaction, or a second person looks at a transaction and says, yes, this is a good transaction. And managing passwords. So SWIFT also hardened its security processes, but it remains heavily dependent on the endpoints, its participants' security procedures. So no matter what SWIFT does centrally, and you would expect it to do some things centrally, it is very dependent upon what various endpoints do in terms of their security procedures. Next slide, please. Okay, so I'm on the board of a mental health clinic in New York, and So the mental health clinic, like a lot of other medical organizations right now, are in the midst of implementing their first electronic medical record system. Very useful. So I recommended to the CEO and the board to be proactive in testing security of the new system. They hadn't had experience with it before. And including having an outside expert test security controls, known as an ethical hack. The board and senior management did not understand their risks. They didn't understand the fact they had a reputational risk. They get all of their patients by referral. Something happens where patient's information becomes public, and it's all over the newspapers that this happened, they're not going to get as many referrals. Financial, obviously, we've seen that with Target, we've seen it with Home Depot, we've seen it elsewhere. And of course, legal issues. If you're a patient and you have your records taken, you're going to do something about it. And so, what did the CEO and the senior management and the board do? The board responded by asking the lawyer to add more security language to the contract. So obviously, that's going to help a great deal when the records become public. You either are public or you aren't public. And the fact that you can go sue the software company is interesting, but doesn't help you get more referrals. Let's go to the next slide, please. So New York State Psychiatric Institute, this is very recent. This comes from an article in the New York Times from several weeks ago. So servers with information about 22,000 people were hacked. 13,000 of the 22,000 records were coded with numbers, and 9,000 records had personally identifiable information, what we call PII. So when the New York Times reporter was going around looking for information about this, he spoke to a professor at Columbia, and the professor said medical records are among the most valuable forms of personal information in the market.